Hi, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. Once more onto the breach, my friends. It's time to review Amazoff Rings of Prime, Season 1, Episode 3. Don't you all feel it? The greatness of this amazing show. Episode is purely a review. I'll be critical of the lore only as it is self-consistent with Rings of Power's own internal story. We know Amazon doesn't have the rights to the lore, and it would be stupid for me to just harp on the differences with what was in Tolkien's writing that they don't have access to say that's the only reason this sucks. Okay, I have a separate video where I talk about Rings of Prime versus Tolkien's Legendarium. That's actually up for this episode. I usually try to put them up together, but this episode just took so long to go through for to analyze. It was so friggin' boring. Again, a lot of the same issues exist in this episode as the first two. On the visual, the same thing. The background and set construction tend to be very well done, with a couple of exceptions, but the rest of the show just fails that level of work. On the direction, the director of this episode, he continues to make the same stupid mistakes that the director of the first two episodes does. Essentially, he lets the bad writing continue without any effort to have it corrected. I'm beginning to wonder if the showrunners have prevented the directors from making changes, or if they've chosen directors who basically yes men to their atrocious scripts. And someone has to be blamed for the atrocious Galadriel writing scene. Not only did it have no effect on the plot, but it made Galadriel look like a moron. Okay? That horrible facial expression and they captured it at the worst possible angle. Like, maybe if they showed it from the front, it might have looked like a natural smile from someone who's riding a horse and feeling some sense of exhilaration or whatever. On the acting, the chief acting atrocity for this episode continues to be Ismael Cruz Cordova, who plays Arondir. Because in the show, that's another stupid thing that the actors keep doing. Yes, there's a hard R in Tolkien. If you listen to PJ's films, they tend to get it right. So Elrond, you hear the R, not Elrond. Like normally it would say Elrond, where it's Elrond. You could hear the R has a little bit of an emphasis in Tolkien's words, right? So Arondir, like you hear me emphasizing, not Arondir, like Arondir. They keep making these R's extended in this show, Anyway, on Cordova, the actor, he has one facial expression for almost all circumstances. I'm tempted to do a video, if I can stomach skimming through the first all the episodes again, just to show all his same facial expression when confronted with all the different things his character is. I'm sorry for yawning, but I'm tired between events going on and bored and whatever. And the Giants aren't doing too great, So we get a lot of scenes with Charlie Vickers Halbrand. The actor, he did okay for what he was given. I can't make a judgment of him on an actor. Like I said, and we're introduced to Lloyd Owen as Elendil. He's kind of my favorite actor in the show so far. I don't think he's been given it material, but he seems to be doing very well with it, and he has the bearing of someone who would be Elendil. Like, I have a feeling this actor understands the role of the character he's supposed to be playing, not the character they're writing in the show, who has drastic changes. Unfortunately, now we have to talk more about the writing again. The writing continues. It's a true bane of the show, okay? For stupid choices like not using pieces of lore that they actually have, like Fëanor, Morgoth, and Zimmerals, and instead going with Galadriel leading the elves to war over the two trees being killed, to insane garbage like making the Harfeet into total pieces of crap this episode, and many other issues. Okay. So the show breaks down to the following plots, which I'll talk specifics about in the plot review, but this is what we've gotten so far. 3 episodes, mind you. Galadriel's quest, Celebrimbor with aid from Elrond in the Forging of the Rings part, the Harfeet migration, Nori and the Meteor Man, the plight of the humans of the Southlands and of the elves who are their prison wardens, right? Those are our main plots that tend to. And we've seen beginnings or hints of other plots, like something's going on in Moria with Durin the Third and Durin the Fourth. They have some sort of deep secret there. Something going on with Tarmiriel and Tar Palantir and Numenor. That was introduced at the end of this episode. A problematic romance between Arondir and Bronwyn. Whatever Halbrand is doing, and whatever is going on with Bronwyn's son and that sword, right? All of those plot threads have little time to develop because of the overextensive, non-contextual exposition combined with unnecessary scenes in the first 2 episodes. Now, I'll give them some credit. There was less non-contextual exposition, character exposition in this episode. In fact, we're the first example of how one is supposed to do exposition, where Elendil and Xenoladriel are looking at the picture of the twins, Elrond and Elros, and Galadriel explained who Elros was in the context of her being in that picture and her being besties with Elrond. That's how you're supposed to do character exposition to explain stuff to the audience. Present it as part of what's actually going on in the scene. On the special effects, the costumes, and scenery, the CGI was atrocious other than anything from the backgrounds. The primary example is that war. Let's take a look at something here I'll put on the screen for you guys. So, this is the warg from the 1977 Hobbit movie, animated movie, the warg from Peter Jackson's Two Towers, and this episode of Rings of Prime. I tried to get a similar looking perspective on all 3 of them, kind of from a distance at a similar angle, and yes, the level of detail on the Rings of Prime one is better than on the Two Towers one for sure, but it just makes it look stupider, or more stupid, whatever the appropriate phrase is. Sound and audio, as usual, the score is good but unmemorable since the rest of the episode was unmemorable. Okay, now let's get on to this plot, which is the really tedious part of this because, anyway, you'll hear my point at the end. So on that first, again, I'll address them in the order I talked about before. So Xenoladriel's quest is taking too long, and honestly, the idea of establishing Mordor as Sauron's evil master plan is stupid. Okay, and I'll put forth that if the plan was something like so had something to do with Amon Amarth, which is Mount Doom, that gives Sauron control of it, then I could kind of take it serious. Like maybe his plan is to somehow use his power to take control of Mount Doom, and he's spending time gathering resources for that. That could have kind of worked for me, okay, within the context of this show. But they literally say on screen the plan is to establish a realm where not only evil can endure, but thrive. It sounds cartoony. Okay? Now the plot of Celeborn Forging the Rings, which really should have been made part of the show, because it's called, the Rings of Power, went nowhere in this episode. Okay? And also now, we've been hearing about the Harfeet migration since the first episode. This episode not only dealt with it extensively, but it made the Harfeet into total assholes. The Harfeet who broke his ankle was in danger of having his whole family left behind if he couldn't keep up. However, they had decided to let him be at the front of the caravan, so he would pace the caravan. They'd all move at a slow pace, right? However, but the punishment for Nori, instead of being herself exiled, which would have been legitimate, instead, Sadok decides to be merciful and put our whole family at the back of the caravan, right, where our father's going to slow them down. They're all going to get decaravan. The Harfoot are assholes. Regarding Nori and Meteor Man, I mean, there's almost nothing is happening other than them becoming better friends. Like Nori should have left with Meteor Man. We don't even need the other Harfoot, other than they should have had an introductory scene. Like they should have started with the Harfoot migration, and then have Meteor Man come, and Nori decide to stay to help Meteor Man and not go with the Harfeet. And then we don't revisit Harfeet later until Meteor Man gets his plot done, then takes Nori back to Harfeet. That would have been the sensible way to do that, but no, we don't get that. Right? Dragging things out doesn't make things more interesting. They're using the mystery box metaphor for everything in this. Meteor Man, Halbrand, and so forth. Now, it's just, okay, so, and outside the plot thread, we have some other issues to deal with. Like, for example, in the scene where Elendil and Galadriel are looking at the painting of Elrond and Elros, which Galadriel's in, we get I mentioned this, we get the first non-contextual character exposition or whatever, right? But why did it take until 3 episodes in and almost the end of the episode, like halfway through, to get to that? Why did only now some writer or director understand you can't keep doing it the other way? So another issue is the situation in the Southlands, which to me is the most interesting plot. We know that Arondir went AWOL, right? And we saw him captured, and we know his regiment was returned to their base, and he was supposed to go with them, but went AWOL, right? So how were they all captured and brought there before him, even though we know he was spending a significant amount of time exploring those tunnels? it might have actually been interesting to see those scenes of them being captured instead of the endless exposition and scenes that don't matter, like Elrond and Celebrimbor talking about Phoenix Hammer, the Silmarils, and Morgoth. That scene has no bearing on the show because Galadriel gave it an entirely different origin. That's the official origin. So they could have edited that 2 or 3 minutes out and maybe shown a 2 or 3 minute fight where Arondir's team is captured. And also, the elves have superhuman senses. They can't conflict with stuff in the Lord of the Rings, for example. We know the elves have superhuman senses. How are they not noticing the vast deforestation from like 4 or 5 kilometers away at least, and not noticing that giant swathes of cloth covering the ground from that far away? Now, I'd say that the plight of the humans in Elvish War in the Southlands, I said, it's the most intriguing one, but it has unfortunately they give it the least intriguing lead character. I mean, why isn't Galadriel investigating all of that? Isn't that like why did they have to have on Numenor? Couldn't they just have Halbrand wash up on Numenor? Because Halbrand it's been leaked, but and that Halbrand is Sauron. Okay, so if that's the case, right? If we go with that being the case, okay, they could just have him on Numenor, ingratiating himself to the people of Numenor as he washed up or whatever, and have Galadriel in the Southlands dealing with that situation, which would make more sense, and none of the characters in the Southland they're appealing. Like a lot of people down on Bronwyn. Bronwyn's. I'm not down on her. I mean, she's kind of trying to work her way through stuff. She's one of the less appealing characters, I guess you would say, But you have to have some sort of empathy with a character to want them to succeed in a plotline. I have any degree of empathy with? Halbrand, who apparently is Sauron's. I am now on Team Sauron. Gladly. Right? And previous, we've, on those, I talked about the major plot lines, but then we get other minor ones, like something going on in Moria with Durin the Third and Durin the Fourth. They had that little secret. Doesn't even show up this episode. Something going on with Tarmiriel and Tar-Palantir and Numenor. Shows up at the end of the episode. A brand new subplot, interesting at the end. Then there's the problematic romance between Arondir and Bronwyn. And I say problematic because it's perceived as problematic in the show. It is not problematic in the context of the lore, but I'm not going to, Bronwyn's nowhere to be found in this episode. Whatever Halbrand's actually doing, that gets added on during this episode, right? So if Halbrand really is Sauron, his storylines make a lot of sense. Otherwise, there's a lot of bad writing when things working in his favor if he's not Sauron. So they better carry through him actually being Sauron if the leak, And then Bronwyn's son and that sword. They didn't even touch on that this episode, I don't want this to be one of those like hour-plus events because I could keep going on the plot. I could literally go like scene by scene and talk about multiple writing issues. I was on This Is Mordor Country on the Renaissance Nerds channel, and we did that. We broke that episode down, and I was talking, and Jed, Jed and I were talking. He has his channel name escapes me right at the moment. We both have to cut stuff out of our reviews, or we'd be here for hours doing it. I don't know how the Renaissance Nerds is doing an hour-long review in addition to Mordor Country. It's crazy. There's so much stuff that's wrong that has nothing to do with the deviances from the lore, or even the woke stuff. I even commented on the woke stuff. Just the horrible writing in this show makes you not even be able to have the opportunity to complain about any of the woke changes. Now I don't want this to be an hour-plus review. I'm already on 13 minutes here. So I'm going to bring up one other significant plot place problem that's present basically for the past 3 episodes. There have been about 200 minutes of this TV show, give or take another 10 minutes for the credits and the opening theme song, right? How much plot has actually really occurred? I talked about it. You can put the Heartfeet migration and the Meteor Man literally in the beginning of the first episode, and you don't need any of the Heartfeet scenes that were in the first and second episode besides Nori and Meteor Man. You don't need them, and nothing changes. And there's more stuff like that, you don't actually need Galadriel in any of the scenes at all in Numenor for those scenes to occur, other than some sort of prophecy. Just, they could have simplified that goal by having Galadriel wash up and go to shore in the Southlands and be involved in that plot line. And then have Halbrand just be washing up on, like after the sea hit them hard, Galadriel holds onto a log and gets driven to the shore. Halbrand gets his way to Numenor, and then that could have been it. And I understand The long-term plot is Galadriel is going to make Halbrand king of the men and in the Southlands, which is going to further Sauron's plan, and then that's when he'll be realized Sauron and Galadriel realize she helped the evil guy. Now you got to remember, okay, until the War of the Last Alliance in the lore, and they said they're ending the show at the War of the Last Alliance. Until that war, okay, Sauron wins. He wins at every single point in the Second Age until the war at the end of it, okay? And then in the Third Age, he wins at every single point until Frodo destroys the ring. Now, there are small victories that hold him back or thwart him, but he's consistently winning in military terms, okay? And if it weren't for certain events working out against him, he would have won both ages, okay? Just bear in mind. So, I'm going to stop here for that episode. I don't want to microanalyze each one of the episodes. I've talked about this, I don't want to bore you guys. I just want to give you enough to show what's obviously wrong here and then move on. All right. And here's this show is boring and unimmersive, regardless of the issues with the lore and the woke stuff. It's just boring, unimmersive, plods away. I give it a 1 out of 10, almost solely for the background work, background work on this, like some of the people doing the set work and some people doing the cinematography are putting effort into this. That's about it. Okay. Comment down below if you have any questions for me about this video. Please share your thoughts. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Like if you like. Dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.